Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with WorldWide Willis. I'm glad to be back, folks. And as you know, this podcast is brought to you by the LMG Podcast Network. Yeah, man, I'm back. I'm back this week. Shout out to my guys. Shout out to Spencer. Shout out to L. Shout out to Pat for filling in for me last week. I got my wisdom teeth removed, all four of them. So, yeah, that was rough. That was really rough. But we got through it. And yeah, shout out to my guys for covering for me. But yeah, I'm back. So you know what time it is. Matches of the week. Honestly, there were some good matches on last week's episode of SmackDown, but really I kind of want to just focus on the latest episode of Raw, which was a really good episode. We'll kind of talk about more of the details there. But the matches of the night were the opening match. We had Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. Um, this was a really good match, man. This one felt like it could have been on Elimination Chamber, or it could have been on Royal Rumble. It had that type of feel to it, that type of importance, and the cool thing is they really battled it out as if it was an actual rivalry. Sometimes it'll feel like they'll build up something as a rivalry, but when the two get in the ring, they don't wrestle like it's a rivalry. Where in this one, it was really intense, heavy hitting, a lot of heavy blows, really good match. And for those who say like Drew and Cody are kind of boring in the ring, I don't get it because it's like they're kind of what you want, right? Like they don't mess up stuff, they don't botch stuff. They do everything really clean. They do everything really well. Some people just want, you know, I don't know what they want. They want style. They want a bunch of swag added on the stuff. I just want really good wrestling, and both of these guys give you that. And it was a really good match. And of course, and we'll talk about that. But the finish of the match um, got changed just because, of course, the Bloodline had to come out there, and you had Jimmy Uso, and Solo come out there and interfere in the match, which caused Drew McIntyre to get the win due to Cody being distracted with the Bloodline. So, really fun match, kind of stacking on top of. We'll kind of talk about that. The theme of this episode: Triple H stacking storylines on top of each other. Cody's, of course, has the beef with the Bloodline because he's had the beef with The Rock, beef with Roman, obviously, finishing the story. But then also having this beef with Drew, who Drew wants to basically take Cody's main event spot at WrestleMania. And so, yeah, it was really good and really good match. Next we had Jay versus Gunther. Jay Uso versus Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Really fun match. Really, really good one. Honestly, one of the better ones. And we'll talk about that in my top 5 as far as Gunther matches, but this is probably Jay's best singles match to me, for sure. I thought the one with Roman was solid, but this one, again, it's with Gunther, so it's going to be a level up as far as opponent, and it really built up Jay to look really good. And the finish was amazing. The finish of getting broken up, Jay finally getting the best of Gunther. You think hits him with the splash. You think, oh, maybe he has a chance to win this, and then Jimmy interferes. So we really don't get a conclusion on that. Gunther rolls up Jay to win the match, and yeah, it was a sloppy finish. Well, sloppy in a good way. Like it left you going, oh, okay, Jay might in the future have a chance against Gunther, but also Gunther looked good, escaped with the victory, looked like a villain, looked really good in the match. And then also we're leading now to a Jimmy versus Jay matchup potentially at WrestleMania. So again, really both Drew versus Cody and Jay versus Gunther did its job. When they on a piece of paper, when they wrote those matches out, they had certain goals for those matches. Both of them hit those goals. So really, really good. All right. So we'll hit on a few different things that kind of just been on my mind since Friday. And then obviously the the results of this latest episode of Raw. But we saw that Braun Breaker is moving up officially, is signing with SmackDown. That's a really good pickup for SmackDown. Again, as we talked about before, SmackDown is kind of the incubation show that Triple H is using SmackDown to kind of put his young thoroughbreds out there, let them get shine. We don't want to put them on Raw where they got to compete with Seth and Cody and Drew and Gunther and all these different people and Jay for TV time. Put them on SmackDown, let them get their own TV time. There's going to be weeks where obviously Roman ain't going to be there. Perfect. That's when you give Braun a main event match here and there. You give, different people main event matches. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for Braun Breaker's future on SmackDown. He's been doing great work on NXT. I was not a believer at first. I wasn't a believer in the fact that they first pushed him as this white meat baby face who, is the next Goldberg. And it was just like, no, we just need him to be really dominant. And he's gotten a lot better in the ring. He's really honed in on what he can do and what he can't do. And then obviously his spear is just elite level stuff. So leaning on that has been really good. And his heel stuff with Baron Corbin was really good. His run where he was a heel and going against Carmelo Hayes was good. And he had some great matches with Ilya Dragunov. So, yeah, I think Braun Breaker is going to be a great pickup for SmackDown. It does seem like they're pushing more towards a babyface to start with, which it makes sense. This might be a new introduction to a casual fan, but, I did like him as a heel. But either way, I think he'll be fine. He'll be fine. We had we're having Rhea versus Nia Jax at the Elimination Chamber coming up this Saturday. However, this week on Raw, they kind of had a video kind of like Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle did, where they kind of sit and get interviewed and they talk back and forth to each other. And it was a good segment, really good segment. I'm really excited for this match. I think Nia Jax is doing the best work of her career by far. Like, this is the best work she's ever done. She's been really solid in the ring. She's looked dominant. They've done a good job of keeping her looking dominant, but also not putting her in positions to potentially hurt anybody, right? She's been really safe. Hasn't been trying to do too much as far as punch, looking dominant, but also, taking care of people. And she's been doing that. And so, and they've just honestly been just putting her in great spots to look dominant. Like tonight, with the 6 women that were in the Elimination Chamber match kind of going back and forth. And then Nia comes in and kind of shuts it down and starts beating everybody up, And so it's going to be a really good match. I think Rhea versus Nia Jax. I think they had a match before. I want to say it wasn't Night of Champions. It was a Survivor Series? I cannot remember what pay-per-view it was, but I feel like they had a one-on-one. And Rhea obviously came out with the victory, but this one, I feel like it's in Rhea's hometown in Australia. Like, it's just going to have a way bigger feel, way more importance. We're in WrestleMania season. So I'm excited for this one. And honestly, Rhea's going to win, obviously, but I'm excited to see Rhea have to come back and win and overcome this obstacle, but also kind of leaning into this. We've always known Rhea is one of the most popular wrestlers in the company, right? Men or women. And the mommy stuff and all that stuff, like, she's been on the cusp of like that heel who we really want to root for, but we still understand she's a heel. Like, this is going to be full out baby face level crowd reactions in Australia. So it's going to be interesting to see how she maneuvers that, right? Still being in the Judgment Day, still supposed to be a heel, but the crowd is going crazy for you. So that's going to be interesting how she does that. I wouldn't mind if Rhea went babyface in like of a gray area, right? Like, she could still be an anti-hero, still do some stuff that's, considered villain stuff, but kind of understand the moment. Like, the crowd is going crazy for it. You don't have to flip them off or anything crazy. Like lean into it a little bit. So I am excited for that match. I really am. I think it's going to be a good championship match, and it's always It's kind of interesting that like the for the men's side, the world heavyweight title is like the secondary title. It's still up there. I'll give Seth credit. He's moved it up there to where it's a viable championship. But the universal title is obviously number one. Where in the women's side, it's the opposite. The women's title, the one that Rhea has, is number one. The number two title right now is Io's title. And so it's kind of interesting how that kind of flip flopped. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see Rhea win this and how the crowd reacts and how the finish is going to go. Because I think I could see her beating Nia clean just to show how great Rhea is, but also I could see her, using the Judgment Day to make it to where Nia still looks like a contender moving forward. So I can kind of see both sides. Then we have the big news coming out, at least pop culture news. Friday we had The Rock come out, actually Hollywood Rock, come out on Friday, and he basically joined the Bloodline officially, and he cut a really good promo. Like, it was in Utah. It was hilarious. He was just talking about how they have 1,000 babies and inbred babies and things of that nature. It was just really on point for, Utah Mormon type jokes. And yeah, it was just a really good one. Like, I really enjoyed that match. I mean, I enjoyed that promo. And I thought Rock he looked like he was in his element again. He looked comfortable again as far as being on the mic and working the crowd as a heel. And I think he's enjoying it, honestly. Like, The Rock hasn't been a heel. When was he a heel again? Last was like 20, like early 2000s, honestly, since the last time we seen Hollywood Rock. So, like when Stone Cold was still around and when he was losing, I think when he lost to Goldberg was the last time we saw him as a heel. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see The Rock in the Bloodline. Like, I honestly never thought that would be the case, but I think due to the Cody, we want Cody campaign and all the Cody finishing his story stuff, they kind of went, okay, this could be interesting, right? The Rock is a heel. This is a good pivot, right? That wasn't the plan originally. We all know that, but this is a good pivot. Because Rock and Roman together, nobody thought about that. And so that's going to be interesting how that works. And if The Rock still stays with Roman, or if he turns his back on Roman, or, any of those things. So it'll be interesting. Definitely for sure. I could definitely see a point where, Rock or Cody and Roman are going at it at WrestleMania. Bloodline starts getting involved. The Rock is there, and then The Rock turns on Roman and the Bloodline and helps Cody finish his story. Right? Like, I could definitely see that. Crowd goes crazy, all that. I could definitely see that. So, yeah, but either way, this was a really cool moment. You got to see Rock in the Versace, the real expensive shirts he used to wear back in the 90s, the shades, like real typical old school Rock. And so it was really fun to see, especially for those who were, really, really tapped in during the Attitude Era. But yeah, so I kind of talked about how I'm really enjoying, and Triple H has always done this, but even in NXT days, but I just really love how he understands storytelling. With Vince McMahon wasn't over creative. It was extremely baseline. It was like almost childlike storytelling. It was you only can understand one storyline at a time, right? If two people if under Vince McMahon, Cody Rhodes and Roman, that would just be the program the whole time. They wouldn't interact with anyone else. They wouldn't have beef with anyone else. They wouldn't acknowledge anyone else on the earth existed within the WWE. It'd be Roman, Cody. They'd act like no one else existed. Whereas under Triple H, he understands that, okay, yeah, for Cody, the big prize is obviously Roman. That's the big beef. That's the big boss, right? But to get there, you're going to go through a journey. You're going to have beef with a few people. You're going to bump shoulders with a few people who are also trying to get to Roman to win the title. So why wouldn't you have many beefs along the way, right? Sort of like a video game. Like you have many missions along the way and sort of stacking storylines on top of each other at the same time to where they intertwine over and overlap over each other. Like that's the beautiful part of wrestling with storytelling, and that's what Triple H is doing. He's having Cody, yeah, he's beefing with the Bloodline, but also he's now beefing with Drew because Drew is trying to get back in the main event scene, and he's jealous of Cody and what Cody's done and winning the Royal Rumbles and having all these opportunities, which he didn't get. He got screwed out of. So he's beefing with Cody about that. So like, it's really cool to see, you know, these, especially baby faces, have to fight off all these different actors, right? Same with Jey Uso, like I talked about. Jey has this bloodline, beef, right? He has his beef with Roman, obviously has his beef with Jimmy. That's kind of that's like the peripheral, right? But along the way, he's had beef with many different people, right? And now he's had it with Gunther. And so like that's a mini side mission, right? That he's on. That's probably now finished. So now he can focus on the main thing, which is Jimmy and the bloodline, right? So he'll probably intertwine with Jey. With Cody. So Jey and Cody will probably have a tag team match against Roman and Jimmy, or Solo and Jimmy, right? Like it's just really cool how they're intertwining things, right? And same thing with like Imperium and the New Day, intertwining them. And I just really like how Triple H understands like these people are all in the same building. So if you have a bunch of competitive people in the same building, good guys and bad guys, not everything's going to just be a straight line. Like sometimes you're going to deviate from the main mission because you got a little, somebody looked at you crazy. So you got to handle some business real quick. So you got to go on a little side beef with this other person, right? But then come back and focus on the main goal. So it's really cool how Triple H has just understood that storytelling. And I think this is what we've always asked for. We just asked for a real product, right? Where people acknowledge each other, interact with each other, have beef with each other. It don't even got to be no crazy 2-month long beef where one person, breaks into the other person's house and, talks about their family. Like it ain't got to be that deep. It just got to be, hey, me and you are going after the same goal. Like we have a beef now because you're in my way of achieving my goal. I'm in your way of achieving your goal. Fine. Okay, we can settle man to man, handle our business for a couple of weeks, and then get back to what we was really on. So it's real simple storytelling, but Vince never understood that. He kind of treated it as 7-year-olds are watching every week when it's like, no, not really. Like this is a billion-dollar industry. That's why I always laugh when people are like, wrestling, that's for kids. It's like, do you not understand how much money WWE makes? If wrestling was for kids, first of all, it wouldn't be a century-old product, right? Pro wrestling wouldn't be something that's in Japan, Australia, overseas, UK, Ireland. Like it wouldn't be everywhere, right? It wouldn't be this billion-dollar industry. It wouldn't be. If it was just for kids, it just wouldn't be, right? Toy sales can only make so much. Like some people have to buy tickets. People have to buy pay-per-views. People have to buy merch, right? So who do you think is buying that? Those are grown people because the product is not for children. It's just not. At times it's been more geared towards children, but it's never been more about children. Even back in the territory days, it definitely wasn't for children. Especially back then, they was talking crazy. They was doing crazy stuff, and it was way more shoot style. People thought it was legit real. People was trying to kill the Four Horsemen when they saw them, jump in dusty roads. Like people was trying to jump in a cage to literally fans like rioted because they thought it was real. So, but either way, I digress. But I really love that Triple H's storytelling, his formula has worked for what 2.5 years now, and it's continuing to work to lead us towards a really good build for WrestleMania and Elimination Chamber. And speaking of that, let's talk about the men's Elimination Chamber, which I think so far is probably the least interesting Elimination Chamber. I think the women's is probably a little more interesting, but it is, I will say, both matches. We kind of just finalized our competitors in the Elimination Chamber for both sides, men's and women's. And I'll say both sides have really good competitors. Like there's some years where Elimination Chamber, you go back and watch like 2013, 14, 15, like it was rough. It was like 2009, like it was some rough years there where like it was like Undertaker and then like four niggas that was garbage. Like you never heard of again. Like where now it's like, oh snap, like you got literally like in the men's Royal Rumble, I mean the men's Elimination Chamber, for example, we probably got out of the six, we got four Hall of Famers and two other guys who are really good. So we got Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley. Then we have Logan Paul, who brings a different aspect, but very much needed. And then LA Knight, who brings another aspect, which is very much needed, right? Like Randy, former champ, Drew, former champ, KO, former champ, Bobby, former champ, right? Logan Paul is a US champion, but obviously he brings something cool to the match. And then LA Knight's he's probably probably the most hot wrestler in the entire match, right? He's probably the most over wrestler in the entire match. And a lot of people are going to want to see him win the match. So I think this Elimination Chamber is going to be really good. It's just been, the build has been good. It's just, it hasn't been as hyped up, especially like the preliminary matches and the qualifying matches. They've been good, but I think basically the build to this Elimination Chamber hasn't been, for the men's, hasn't been great, but I think the match will supersede all that, right? Like, I mean, a lot of these guys are really good. Obviously, all of them can work in the ring, and I think they're going to do a really good job of like it being really balanced, right? Um, like there's sometimes an Elimination Chamber where they put a bunch of randoms and then put a big monster in there, and the monster comes in and just starts wiping dudes out. That's not going to happen in this match. Way too many guys on equal planes. Way too many guys we have way too much respect for to be squashed. That's not going to happen. No one's going to get squashed in this match. So that's really exciting to see. That means we're going to get a great one. Honestly, the Elimination Chamber match last year in the men's, amazing. Amazing. And honestly, they took a different approach last year, just because it was for the U.S. title. So it was, Montez Ford, Bronson Reed, Gargano. You know, it was a really, really fun match, and it showcased some of the upcoming talent, right? Kind of the really good mid card that the WWE has right now, which is heavily underrated. The mid card for the WWE right now is Attitude Era level, but that's another day, another topic. But I am excited for this one. Going to be a totally different match than what we got last year. Not going to be any high flying. Really, Logan Paul will probably do something, obviously off of the chamber, but other than that, probably not high flying. But hopefully, I think it'll be a high impact match, and I think we get Drew to win it. Now, it's kind of tough because I could also see, like, if Randy won it, I wouldn't be mad. If LA Knight won it, wouldn't be mad. Really, any of these guys, other than Logan Paul, obviously. Bobby doesn't have enough momentum to be winning this. He just doesn't. But I think they're probably going to use it to maybe veer off for a Bobby match at WrestleMania, potentially, and him have a rivalry with one of these other guys. Maybe him and Randy, somebody, and hopefully this leads to like what it would be really cool is if, let's say, Drew wins the match, right? Goes on to WrestleMania and faces Seth. But then the rest of these guys have a match. We have maybe Logan Paul versus Bobby versus Randy versus KO versus LA Knight for the US title at WrestleMania. That'd be cool. That'd be a really fun match, and I'd be very much interested in that. Because I don't think Logan will retain in that type of match. So I think I really loved the Elimination Chamber match last year because it was a great match and it pushed some really great things, right? Moving forward. Like it really pushed some guys and some really good momentum, especially Brunson Reed, Gargano, Montez Ford. Not as much, but he had an amazing showing in that match. This match is going to be different. This is way more star power. So this will bring something different. It'll be interesting. Now, the women's Elimination Chamber match, I am very much interested in because I thought they did a really good job of selecting the women. Sometimes they make very interesting choices when it comes to Elimination Chamber for women's. I don't know why. I think sometimes because their champions are usually Bianca, Becky, Charlotte, some of the top workers are now outside of the match, right? They're not defending their title in that match. So now you have to pull from lower down in the roster. You got to throw in a Meacham, Shayna Baszler, which I like Shayna Baszler, but just less star power. You're relying on Liv Morgan to carry a match. Again, no offense to Liv, but her to carry a match, absolutely not. You're relying on some people who just aren't, Raquel to carry match. Not saying they can't be in the match, but to carry the match, have the most star power of everybody in the match, that's not good. Whereas this year, I thought they did a great job of picking. You got Bianca, right? You got Becky Lynch. Those two alone, like you got as much star power as you're gonna get. Low key, more star power in the women's than there is in the men's. Right now, at least right now in their current state, right? But they also mixed it up by giving you Naomi, who we all love, good star power, and we all want to see her come back and have a big match. Then you got, of course, Liv in there, probably a really good spot for her, right? She'll be able to show out, do her thing. She will not win, which she shouldn't. She has no business. I want to be very clear. Liv Morgan in a match against Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Naomi, and my girl Tiffany Stratton. Liv Morgan has no business even pinning anyone in this match, let alone winning. If Liv Morgan gets a pin in this match, I will be shocked and I will be upset because she's not better than any of these others. She's just not. Okay. And also Raquel is in this match as well. So Liv. I'll let Liv live, but she should be the first one out in this match, unless something funky goes on. But yeah, I just think it's a really good mixture. And again, this one I think should be if I'm producing the match. To me, my goal coming out of this match is Becky is my winner. I think Becky should win. Becky versus Rhea Ripley is the money match. It just is. I wouldn't go to Becky Bianca or Rhea Bianca yet, just because I want to let them simmer some more, and I want Bianca to get that title match versus. I want Bianca to have a match at WrestleMania, but mainly go up against potentially Bayley after she wins versus Io. But that's one of my goals. Becky to win the match. Secondly, I want Tiffany Stratton to look great. I want Tiffany Stratton to look great in this match. Also, I want Tiffany Stratton to potentially have a beef with Bianca. I think if you get a Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania, that's a really good match. That's a really good match. So again, I would just want to really highlight Tiffany. Tiffany should get a couple eliminations here. Um, Raquel, at least should look solid. Naomi should look really good. Um, that's kind of the clear thing, and obviously Bianca should only lose to Becky. So and within this match, should go into it should build a Tiffany Stratton Bianca beef, which they kind of already started on Raw tonight, where they did the preview, kind of that like go home segment, and Tiffany and Bianca were getting into it on the mic. So they're kind of already sowing the seeds of a Bianca Tiffany Stratton beef. And so I'm hoping that leads to a singles match, non-title match at WrestleMania. But yeah, really excited for this one. Obviously, Raquel qualified for the match in the Battle Royal that happened on Raw. It was a really fun Battle Royal. Sometimes I wish they would kind of speed it up and give us a little more excitement in these matches, especially on like a weekly show. Battle Royals, weekly shows sometimes don't go really well, especially WWE. They're kind of conservative on like the type of eliminations. We just had a Royal Rumble, what, less than like a month ago. So they had to do some stuff that was fresh. Not everything was, but Raquel coming out the win. I would have liked to see Alba Fire win this one, just because I think Alba Fire would look great in this match, and it would give you Tiffany and Alba as upcoming talents to get the look. I know they think of Raquel as upcoming talent, but Raquel's kind of already gotten this push before, so it wouldn't have hurt her to sit out this one, come back maybe closer to Mania or come back after Mania and just pushed Alba Fire. Let Alba Fire really get in there and show what she can do. She's probably top 10, if not top 5 on the roster as far as a worker. So I think she would do a really good job in this match, and could build her heel work, And you could have a Alba Fire versus Liv matchup potentially in the future for Mania. I mean, probably not Mania, but you know what I mean. As a weekly like SmackDown matchup. And but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Should be fun. Obviously, Elimination Chamber is going to be at the crack of dawn, since it's in Australia, but we will be up and we will have a review for you guys. It will be me, Pat, and L, of course, reviewing Elimination Chamber. Should be a good time. All right, my top fives to finish out. My top fives. This top five today is very close to my heart. As you all know, Gunther's my favorite wrestler. Gunther is the epitome of what a pro wrestler should be. So in a special edition, I usually do top fives. I couldn't even eliminate to narrow it down to 5. I had to do 7. These are my top 7 Gunther matches. Now, I want to be clear. These are not anything under Walter's resume. Anything under Walter is eliminated from this. This is only Gunther. So we're not going to have the Dragunov matches. We're not going to have the Tyler Bate matches. We're not going to have the Pete Dunne matches. These are just Gunther. So this is just him on the main roster as Gunther. Okay? Just want to get that out there because I know some people are like, yo, what about, Imperium versus Undisputed Era? I love that match. One of my favorite 6-man tag matches of all time. Or 8-man tag matches of all time. But it doesn't count on this one because he was Walter. So, all right, number 7. This is where he this is when he defended his title, I think the first time against Ricochet on SmackDown. Ricochet had the purple tights or whatever. Really, really good match. Really good match. I think Gunther was working on that finisher he used for a little bit, the little side slam, kind of the Braun Breaker slam, but a kind of variation of that Gunther was doing. I hated that finisher, but overall the match is really good. And again, Gunther, the reason that Ricochet got that momentum to then face Logan Paul and get a lot more highlight was off the back of this match, off the back of his rivalry with Gunther. He looked 10 times better against Gunther. He looked like a guy who deserved to be in that spot. Obviously, he lost, but everybody loses to Gunther. That's not the point. The point is, how good do you look, and is this something you can sustain? and he sustained it for a little bit due to the matches with Gunther. So number 7, Ricochet versus Gunther on SmackDown. When Gunther was on SmackDown, he originally moved to the main roster and went over to SmackDown before being drafted over to Raw. Number 6, this one happened a little more recently. This is The Miz versus Gunther on Raw. I think this was in December, late December. This was that whole Gunther saying, Miz, you're a puppet show. You're on a reality show. You're disrespectful to the mat. You're disrespectful to the sport I love. And they had a really fun rivalry. It was like the antithesis of each other. It was not a matchup you would have thought of that you would get some great match out of, but I loved it. That match was so much fun. It was great. It was you got to see, Miz. It's crazy because Miz is a really good and underrated babyface. Like anytime he's really bought in 100% to being a babyface, he's killed it because he's amazing on the mic and he's a good worker, and the crowd can get behind him because he's not the greatest athlete, and he's going against dudes that look like Gunther and Drew McIntyre and all these guys who just look the part. So you kind of feel, you kind of root for him naturally. And so, yeah, that match was really fun. Miz got the hell beat out of him, but he really fought back, and he made you feel sympathy for him while he was trying to overcome this beast of a man that is Gunther. So that was a really fun one. And we knew, Miz is one of the greatest IC champions of all time. So it wasn't like this dude was in there with no experience. Like, no, we knew, okay, Miz has what it takes to win a title. It's just, does he have what it takes to beat the GOAT of IC champions? You know what I mean? So next we have number 5, big men slapping me. That's my favorite category of wrestling anyways. Pause. But Bronson Reed versus, it was Gunther versus Bronson Reed on Raw. They went against each other, I think, twice. First one I saw actually in person, and that was amazing. That was amazing at that Raw. That Raw was in Oklahoma City. Amazing. I think they went against each other again. And I may be confusing this because I watched it live and then I rewatched it on television. So it may have just be one match that I saw, but it was amazing. Gunther actually got the power bomb against him. It was great. It was a really good build to Gunther getting that power bomb. Obviously, he had to work to, the first like 2-3 attempts he tried and he couldn't get him up. Brunson looked great. The chops were, you could hear it all the way through the arena. It was amazing. And it just made Brunson look like a monster as well. As always, Gunther, as all these matches I'm gonna name today, all of them, Gunther made the opponent look really good. And I think Bronson Reed is a really talented big guy. He's not some big guy who can't wrestle. He's good. Bronson Reed is really talented. And so he showed that off. Like, they had some great stuff on the side turnbuckle, some great moves over there. Just, you could tell they had a lot of chemistry. I think they worked with each other a lot overseas. So, and in NXT. So, yeah, shout out to them. Great match. Number 4. This one was a fun one because this was a matchup that, this is one of those, dream matchups where you're like, man, you're playing 2K and you're like, it'd be fun to watch these two guys go against each other. We got to see it. It was Gunther versus Kevin Owens on Raw. Again, all these are on Raw, folks. We're getting classic matches on free television. I appreciate you, Triple H, that you don't put Gunther on premium live events, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice, but we get to see Gunther free, so I appreciate it on a weekly basis too. And yeah, him versus KO was just amazing. It was just total opposite styles. One's a heavy hitter, and Gunther. The other one is a fight machine, a bout machine. Will do whatever it takes to win. Will jump off whatever. And it was really fun. And it kind of represented two different eras of pro wrestling. Kevin Owens is more of the, mid to the early 2010s kind of Ring of Honor level wrestler where you kind of had everything in your game as far as, you were the Seth Rollins, the Sami Zayn's, the Daniel Bryan's, you know what I mean? Like you can wrestle on the mat, but you can also do some stuff off the top rope. You can also do some extreme stuff. You can also, you know what I mean? You can do some really crazy stuff. And then Gunther represents kind of a later 2010s, which is more strong style, right? Where it's very like simple, kind of basic, but extremely stiff, extremely like intense, and you know, looking more of a realistic fighting style. And so it was a really cool clash of styles. And again, like KO and Gunther are some of my two favorite wrestlers ever. So I could watch those two matches without each other, just on their own all day. So with these two getting together on Raw of all things, again, this is on Raw. This could have been on if you would have gave me a Gunther versus Kevin Owens match at Elimination Chamber, I'd be extremely hyped. But the fact that we got it on a normal episode of Raw, crazy, crazy. Number two, these last two, very predictable. I know, but they're just too good. Number two, Sheamus Clash at the Castle. I think this is Gunther's coming out party. I think for many of us, including myself, I was a Gunther guy way back when he was in Evolve, way back when he was over in UK, NXT UK. But I think to the casual fan, this was okay, this dude's a superstar. Like, I know he's really good in the ring, but this dude's a superstar. The match he had with Sheamus, man, that was, again, one match of the year. You know what I mean? This man has back-to-back matches of the year, 2023 and 2022. And this one in 2022, Clash of the Castle. You're in a great environment overseas in Wales. The crowd is in Sheamus's hand. They're just wishing and hoping Sheamus can win. And Gunther just beat that man to a pulp. Right? Like, and it was to the point to where you felt bad for Sheamus. You felt uncomfortable how hard Gunther was hitting him. You kind of was like, man, fight back, Sheamus, And so Gunther just did a great job, man. Amazing match. Those two killed it. They have great chemistry. They're just built to wrestle each other. Fight forever, as many would say. And then my number one, obviously, the triple threat Intercontinental Championship match, 2023 WrestleMania, Gunther versus Drew versus Sheamus. Great match. Really, really fun one. Heavy hitting. Three big men slapping meat, and it was fun. The finish was amazing with the power bomb on top of the other guy. It was just, and you felt it. Like, there was times where you thought Sheamus was gonna have his moment, then Drew would steal it away, and then Sheamus would come back. Oh, he had his moment. Nope. Then Gunther would steal it away, and then you got to really focus in on Gunther versus Drew, which we hadn't really seen bits and pieces, but now we got to get a little more time with it. That was beautiful. So again, great match, amazing match in a great environment. They deserved that platform, and they showed out. I mean, it was the match of the year, if not for, you could put Charlotte versus Rhea match of the year up there too. But yeah, it just killed it. And so those are my top 7 Gunther matches. Again, I couldn't narrow it down to just 5. I had to highlight the other ones. And honestly, there's plenty of more. The match he had with Jey Uso could be in the top 10. The matches he had with, Kingston, and match he had with Tommaso Ciampa. The match he had with Chad Gable, right? Those were amazing. I left off the ones with Gable. Those were great. So many matches, man. Honestly, Imperium versus the Brawling Brutes. That was amazing. I think that was on SmackDown. That was fun. So it's just so many matches, man. If I left any off, let me know. And let me know what your favorite Gunther matches are. But again, be looking on the lookout for this episode as well as upcoming review next week of Elimination Chamber. Should be a fun one. Yeah. Till next time, we out. Yeah.